Hey, FloRacing, this is your girl CE with yet another episode of Right Off Track. This is episode 17, and I say this every single time. I still cannot believe that they give me an open microphone and a platform to talk about the thing that I love most in this world, drag racing. And today I get to kind of embed two of the things I love most in this world, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this has been a huge week and a huge month at Flo Drag Racing. We have had a ton of races, a ton of media stuff going out, a ton of news, a ton of content, but we always know that October is going to be one of our heaviest months. And so if you've missed anything on the drag racing front, head to FloRacing.com. You can catch live replays of Battle of the Thrones, No Mercy, FL2K, and all of the madness that is October. You are not going to want to miss a thing. There was 10 days of duck racing. And if you've ever been involved in duck racing, holy shit, that's a doozy. So go to FloRacing, check out all of the content from these races, all of the live replays for you only on FloRacing.com. So on top of what we cover here at FloRacing, October is a huge, huge month in other aspects of drag racing because all of the countdowns are coming to play here. Championships are being crowned. Things are starting to turn around and look certain ways for certain drivers. People are dropping, people are climbing. And if you are following the NHRA series, absolutely action-packed, and there's no telling who's going to win these classes here. Last weekend was one of the coolest races of the year at Texas Motorplex, my hometown of the DFW area, and with the Stampede of Speed, which is something a little bit different. We talked about Duck Week for a second, but they do their own thing. There's 90s country concerts, there's a rodeo, there's a lantern release, there is all kinds of madness going on. Pro Mod show with Scott Palmer, Jegs All-Stars, shootouts, protesting, and then the NHRA Fall Nationals, which closed out the Stampede of Speed. And that is where our guest today comes into effect, where we're going to talk about that. But before we handle any of that, a lot of people make this possible for me to live my dream out here on FloRacing with Right Off Track. And as always, this episode and every episode of Right Off Track is brought to you by Castrol Edge. It's 3 times stronger against viscosity breakdown than the leading full synthetic and gives your engine 10 times better high temperature performance than the industry standard when you need it most. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. So without further ado, guys, I know I ride this coattail. We've seen her on Flo. We've seen her on the internet with Flo Drag Racing social medias. She's a part of our Pro Superstar Shootout that's coming up. She was a star at the World Series of Pro Mod, which we have here at Flo Drag Racing, but I have held out. I have held out, and I have not pulled the Erica Enders card until today. And I pulled it out today for a couple of really important reasons. One, Speed Queens, the Ender sister story. Am I self-promoting? Probably a little bit, but that's okay. Erica and I were the subject of a Flo Films original documentary that came out 2 weeks ago. We're going to talk about that, but also the timing is right. The winningest woman in motorsports history. Forget she's my sister. Forget she drives my favorite class of pro stock. Forget she is a friend of Flo Drag Racing. We are bringing on the historic, dare I say, best bitch in the world in racing, Erica Enders. Welcome to the show. Erica, I'm so excited for you to be on Right Off Track.
Thanks, Court. I'm excited to be here too.
Now, I got to let the Flo listeners and viewers of this podcast know that I always give you all behind the scenes. People are polished, people are fancy, people are professional. I am not. I've pre-recorded this. We're pre-recording it right now. And my sister's face was staring at me the whole time I did that opener. So the fact that I got through that opener with that face staring at me, I think we can just call it a freaking day here. So welcome to my office, Erica.
Well, thanks for having me. I think you do a fantastic job. I could not do that without or with someone watching me. So you nailed it.
If my Apple Watch tells me anything, my heart rate's probably a little bit high, but we're through the hard part for me. We're through all of that. I wanted to rush through it and be able to talk about a bunch of stuff because, I mean, let's face it, you would have been an easy home run on any of these episodes of Right Off Track, but I wanted to wait until the time was right where we could promote things and celebrate things. And the first thing I want to do is celebrate you, the winningest woman in motorsports history, guys. And if you watch the TV show, they said NHRA, they said drag racing, but it's beyond that. That's IndyCar, that's F1, that's NASCAR, that's midgets, that's junior drag, that's anything. Like, have you even comprehended that?
I don't know, but I do know that the title sounds pretty significant, and I was definitely very proud of it, as you know, because you've been along for every single step of the way, but it has been quite the journey, way more valleys than peaks, but also what a ride, man. I mean, it's been crazy. You know that we were both fans of Angel, who held the record prior to me. We used to stand outside of her pit and wait for her autograph, and to look back on it and think, man, you mentioned it earlier, like, I don't think I'm going to race that long to get 40 something wins, but yet here we are. And I don't think we're anywhere close to being done yet. So pretty substantial title there. Something I'm very proud of, something we've worked our entire lives for, but also at heart, the racer.
We talked about this before we were on air, but I'm going to let this loose. You said it. I've been along your whole career. We've had a lot of conversations about milestones in your career and certain things that we just look to next. There was always that big game, but what's next? And I remember, golly, it was probably 5-6 years ago in your earlier days at Elite Motorsports, and you would pass Shirley, and we were just kind of looking at the list, and you said, well, Angel has 46. Like, that's too much. Can you even, like, it doesn't feel like 5 seconds went by, or is that a grueling process from 15 to 47?
I think in one hand it is, and on the other hand, it's like dog years because of all of the things that you have to go through and how hard you have to work. But at the same time, it seems like a snap of the finger. So in 2015, when we won the U.S. Nationals for the first time, I was super excited because we were able to tie my childhood hero, Shirley Muldowney, at 18. And that feels like just a second ago. And here we are at 47. So a lot of things were slam packed into those, 6 or 8 years, but we did it. And it's pretty cool. And I love the fact, like, you always say this to me, and I always get down on myself and never believe it, but like, big moments come when there's a lot on the line. And the fact that it was our 350th start, 350th Pro Stock race, whatever you want to call it, my birthday week, we were in Texas at the Stampede of Speed, which is our favorite event to attend. And then we were able to capitalize and win there and make history at that, like, significant event. So all of the stars aligned and the things worked out for us, kind of like Julie's day, winning the Jegs All-Stars, the national event, the World Championship, the 100th win for Randy Meyer. So two chicks kind of wrecked shop in Dallas, and that was pretty cool.
Let's talk about Dallas for a minute. You know, we go do the same thing every week at a different track. We are kind of like the carnies of the motorsports world. We pack our stuff up, we unload it, the guys set it up, we do the same thing, 3 to 4 qualifiers, go out there, try and win on race day. Different fans, different atmosphere, but Texas Motorplex knocks it out of the park, not only with the events leading up to it, but just the pageantry and the things that they do at the race. Give us a little insight of why that's so special to you. Forget that that's your home. If you're a Yankee and you're going there and you're seeing all the cool things all over the belt buckle, what's that like, racing in a different type of event like that?
It's super exciting because it's not often that we go to a place like that where the people who are putting on the race love the sport as much as we do. The Meyer family takes a ton of pride in how they present everything. The state of Texas got on board with it with funding, and it's just like I think it's like a 10-day celebration with concerts, and you mentioned the lantern deal and a ton of things leading up. Like, I got to town on Tuesday. We did some stuff for Flo in the stockyards, which was really fun. But what started off everything amazingly for me was Wednesday night at the Champions Dinner. And because we were the defending champion at the Texas Motorplex from last year, we got to be invited to this awesome dinner. I got to pick the entree, which I picked filet. But it was just a really nice, like, you walked in and you don't think that you're at a drag strip. The way that they did it is banquet tables and tablecloths and centerpieces and people dressed up in their Western attire, and myself and Caps and Justin Ashley and Hector Arana got to speak with Joe Costello on the stage, and it was just an amazing event. And then Thursday was, of course, another media day, and then we raced Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, long answer to your question, but the Meyer family does such a great job. And we debuted our Corral boot trailer, as you know, at that event. It was the first time that the Quadra family was going to sell Corral and Quadra boots and attire. And Christy and her husband came over and they said, hey, we want to do something a little bit extra and give away a pair of boots to every low qualifier on Friday. So it's just like they're always adding to this program. Like not only do they give away a ton of money on Friday night, well, now they're giving away a pair of Corral boots. And then you get this awesome hat, cowboy hat from the American Hat Company, and a belt buckle and all this stuff.
It's a briefcase full of money.
Yeah, not to mention that. But like it's so fun. And other tracks are kind of catching on. Like Kyle Kretzky at Reading gave away cornhole boards. Like every track is kind of like trying to mimic what they've done because the feeling there is so special. So I know I keep rambling on about them, but we are so appreciative of them and obviously can't wait to go back next year and we'll be the defending. Yeah, it's exciting.
Whenever it comes to racing at home, I feel like a lot of drivers like Brutus, our friend Alan Johnson, Bristol eluded him for so long. And Greg Anderson's talked about how with his 100 and gazillion wins, how few of those have come from Charlotte. You winning at home, you closed down the Houston racetrack, RIP HRP, sadly, but you closed it down, won a couple of times there. But why? Is it the fans? Is it the track? Is it your pride? What's so cool about winning at home?
Oh, I think all of the things that you mentioned, and then like we'll go back to the final Houston event last year before the pros ran. You and I got to sit there and watch 6 other Houstonians win the event. The Arnold family, the Emmons family, 2 of the brothers won there. Michael Holcomb. So then we get to Dallas, right? And Jam and Jerry Emmons is up and he beats the defending world champion and stock eliminator to win. Right behind him is Michael Holcomb, who wins Super Comp. And you're in my car door, you're like, okay, it's all playing out the same way. We just got to go execute. And we did just that. So I think it's awesome that a lot of the Texas drivers were able to win in Texas. And we always called it the Texas two-step, winning in Houston and winning in Dallas. So definitely something that I take a lot of pride in. I love winning at home. And it's not just home for you and I, it's home for our shop in Oklahoma too. So it's only 2 hours south of here. So we had a ton of guests from our shop that don't normally come out, and just friends and family from Oklahoma. So it was definitely important to park that JHD Melling Performance Skag Power Equipment car in the winner's circle, and we did. And Oliver was there, and he didn't use the bathroom.
Yes, he did. He peed this time.
Yeah, he peed. I didn't want to say the other one, but yeah, he peed this time. So my guys are like in the background high-fiving, and like they're just so excited. And that was part of Jake Harrison. Every time he came to tell me good luck before I fired the car, like he comes and he tells me about track conditions and our tune-up and what's, we should be good here, and these cars are doing this, and this is what you can expect. And he would say all day long, okay, 3 more rounds until the bullshit in the winner's circle, 2 more rounds, 1 more round. So all day long, that's what he was talking about. And it just like, it's so many fun memories that we're fortunate to make with a lot of people that we care about. So great freaking day in Texas.
Let's go behind the curtain of Oz here for a minute. A hometown race. It sounds awesome. It sounds poetic and all this hoopla. The real deal, though, your pit is absolutely jam-packed, and you want every person that's there. We've got people who own car dealerships in Wynnewood, Oklahoma, flying their helicopter in to come watch us. We've got people from the Cultivation Center, wives, girlfriends, brothers, sisters, parents. The pressure of all of that in the pits, because you don't get to do your normal thing where you service the car and go have a minute. It's nonstop. So how do you continue to perform damn near flawless when you've got all that shit going on? Because if anybody understands what's in your peripheral, it's me.
Oh, yeah. And you're the one that kind of has to fend people off for me, but you protect my mental space, that's for sure. But I think it's just like I put on these blinders and I go to work. I come back, we service the car, and then I go up in the crew chief lounge. I go over all the data with my crew chiefs and my EFI tuners, and I come out, and it's just like this crowd of people, right? And you don't want to be rude, and you say hi and you talk when you can, but like, fortunately, a lot of them understand what's going on and they don't get like mad. But I just try to stay focused and keep the blinders on, keep my head down, and kind of stay in the zone. And a lot of people might not think that matters, but just like a football player or basketball player, any other athlete, you gotta stay mentally tough, and you gotta stay focused to be able to execute the way that you plan to. And it's super important. But yeah, home races are a giant cluster. I felt so sorry for you because you were working so hard on all the flow stuff, getting all that footage with the videographer. And then on top of that, you're having to handle like 500 ticket requests and print these out and leave them for these people. And this person's bitching about this. And Courtney, where do I go for that? And that, and you're probably just like, oh my God, I want to kill you. But yeah, it's a giant cluster. But, but we got through it and we're happy to get out of there. And we're going west where we won't have a lot of guests and it'll be smooth as silk and hopefully.
If you think we're not going to have a lot of guests in Vegas, you're sadly misspoken, Miss Sister Pants. So don't you worry, I'll handle that for you like I always do.
Okay.
Before we move on into some of the extracurricular stuff I want to talk about, I don't like this show to be results based or, talking about any of that, but you can't ignore this season and in pro stock and the Stampede of Speed, the Fall Nationals just showed that. I don't know if I'm being Lewis and making up stats by myself, but that had to have been one of the tightest, quickest pro stock fields in a really, really long time. And I want to know your opinion because you're a pro stock girl through and through. What kind of statement does that make for the rest of what's going on in drag racing and how much of a driver's class this has become?
Man, I really can't say enough about pro stock and people will say that I'm just saying it because I love it, but it's so true. If you step back and you take a look at what our class has accomplished. And then after the Friday night session, I think, or maybe it was even Saturday, I'm going back and I can't remember, but like the top 8 were separated by a few thousandths of a second, not hundreds, thousandths of a second. So everything's going to come into play. Like it's going to be your reaction time. It's going to be how well you execute your shift point, how great your crew chief sets up the car, how good your EFI tuner nails it. Like it's just so much goes into making a successful run in pro stock that it's like mind boggling that we're so close to each other. So come Sunday, we kind of felt like we were missing it during qualifying, and we made some wholesale changes on my car after the Saturday morning session to change it for the Saturday afternoon session. And we started to see things trend in the right direction. And then hearing Jake and Mark's confidence in their voice in how Sunday was going to go in turn gives me confidence. So, and then to roll off the trailer Sunday morning and go low ET, not of race day, but of the entire freaking season, was pretty substantial. So that was awesome. And I want to I'll go back and answer your question here in a second, but like all 4 rounds on Sunday, I went 46, 47, 47, 46. Like how freaking awesome is that? And how many races would we have won bracket racing if I had a car that consistent? It was, that means a lot, but to answer your question, collectively, pro stock as a whole is the healthiest it's been in quite some time. Richard Freeman, Jason Lyne, Greg Anderson, when they were KB, they all got together and we were not having full field. So we did what we could as team owners to get more cars out there. And we worked together for the first time, I think, in NHRA pro stock history. The 2 juggernauts worked together. And now look at the class, like it's flourishing. We had 23 entries in Dallas on Sunday. And it's just tight. It's a tight field. We field 8 to 9 cars a weekend. I think KB is around 6 or 7. You got 2 Magaha cars and you know how it goes from there. So it's just, I can't speak enough about pro stock. It's so fun. It's so exciting. And what keeps me coming back for more after 19 years is the true challenge of it, because no matter how long you drive these cars or how good you try to do, you're always learning something, and something is always being thrown out of left field at your face, and you have to adjust accordingly. And it's just a true challenge. And that's what I love about it is you can never just say you've mastered it. You just have to keep working. So I love pro stock. How's that for the longest answer in world history?
Listen, again, I know exactly how this interview is going to go. This is an easy one for me. I didn't have to plan it. You're saying the things I want you to say. With that being said, what I want you to say next is, the role that you have at Elite, you mentioned it right there. We've got a mega team. There's 9 cars in any given weekend. That's if Pro Mod's not there. That's if David Quadra's not racing his top sportsman car, which he's killing it in. You are the house car. You are the one who started there when Richard in 2014 were going to do this partial season and ended up accidentally winning the world championship, which is crazy and a whole nother podcast. But you've got guys now like Aaron Stanfield. He's no stranger to the driver's seat, but when he was new to pro stock was with us. Jerry Don Tucker, the Quadra Boys, even Drew Skillman back in the day. But you and Jed Coughlin Jr. Jed Coughlin Jr. is coming back for Vegas. Your role as kind of the mentor, the teacher, all of that, give us a little bit of what you do in between rounds, not only on your own program. We've figured out you go to the crew chief lounge, yada, yada, but you're also helping these guys. And do you enjoy that? Does that kind of get your rocks off knowing that you're spreading the wealth of your experience?
Yeah, I actually like that aspect of it. During the off season, being able to coach these new drivers is something that is fun and I take a lot of pride in. And you mentioned a few of the names, but like Bruno Massel, Drew Skillman, Marty Robertson, Jerry Don Tucker, Aaron Scanfield has a great teacher with his father, Greg, and TJ with his dad, Troy, and his uncle, Jag, and then the Quadra Boys being able to help them as well. But if you remember Friday evening before that night session, I was going to every pit, making sure these guys were taken care of with their shift light and what to expect when it's completely dark out there. The way the lights shine on the track makes the surface shiny and it makes the groove invisible. Well, Dallas is a very important track to stay in the groove in because it's all concrete and it's very narrow and you can get in trouble in a brief second. And so I just want to make sure everybody was taken care of. And that's where my experience comes into play. Like, not to say joke around, but Greg and I say, we're the old guys of the class and we've been out here doing this for so long. And that's my goal. My goal is to make their journey easier because when I was taught, a lot of people tried to throw a wrench in my spokes and make it harder and unenjoyable. So I said back then, if I am ever blessed enough to have the opportunity to help someone, I'm going to help them rather than hurt them. And that's what I'm doing now. So I, again, take a lot of pride in it, but it's also a lot of fun for me because my job is to shorten their journey and make it more enjoyable than mine was.
Yeah, that's true. We've talked about it on many podcasts before. We won't get into that, but your journey was definitely one of busting down walls. And Angel actually commented on my Instagram post of you surpassing her as becoming the winningest woman. And she was so sweet and so thoughtful. And I mean, the only thing I could say back to her was like, dude, you paved the way. Like, it was tough for you, but it was tougher for her and it was tougher for Shirley. And every nick down the line, it makes it a little bit easier. And that's one of the things that I think that I remind you a lot of. And when you're, wanting to be the best and I want to keep winning and I want to win every race, because y'all, if you tell Eric Enders you can't win every race, what do you say?
Why?
Yeah. So
like genuinely, why?
Genuinely, yeah, you want to win every race, but you're really making it a better place for men, women, younger kids to come do this. And I think that rolls perfectly into the Speed Queens. So as most of you guys know, the reason that this podcast is named Right Off Track is Erica and I had a Disney movie based on our early life, in 2003 that came out called Right On Track. And so that was cool. Like, we were in high school and we got to leave high school and go to school in a little trailer on set, and Beverly Mitchell and Brie Larson and film this movie about, really at that time, people said our life and our career. But now, flash forward 20 years, FloRacing, I know it's disgusting. FloRacing came up with the idea, Flo Films actually, to do a kind of 20 years later documentary on where we are now. And so I want to get your insight and your real feelings, because you and I haven't even really talked about this. We didn't get to watch the movie together yet. We're going to have a live watch party on FloRacing. Keep looking on our socials for that. But the beginning of our career got a movie. And then the end of not the end of our career, but where we're at today gets another movie. Like, really let that soak in before we talk about the nitty gritty of this movie. You're barely 40 years old. I'm 37 years old. And we have 2 freaking movies made about our life. Like, what the hell?
It's kind of crazy, definitely. The Disney movie was obviously Disney-fied and for a younger audience. And this one is like, hide your kids, hide your wife, plug your ears, because it's a little more rough and a little more real. But, like I tried to explain, and we drag race for a living and it's 90% dudes and you're living on the road and so it's definitely not easy. It's definitely not prim and proper and all of the things like how we grew up. So it was definitely worried about it. And I was definitely worried about the criticism that was going to come along with it, because I'm very vocal about my faith, as you are. And so that was like the biggest thing I was worried about, is like, oh, well, you're a Bible thumper, or you always talking about God and Jesus, but here you are slinging the F words. Well, just like that T-shirt, I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. Like, it just, I don't say GD, but I swear, and it is what it is. So that was like the part that I was most worried about. And it hasn't been too bad, but there have been a few hundred hate mail letters, but that's okay, because so many people have been so positive about it. And again, we'll circle back to what you said, is like, how cool is it that we're still this young and have had 2 movies about us, and it's just cool. And I hope that, the younger generation continues to look up to you and I. And if anything, if we can teach them anything, it's not about what you do or how you do it. It's that knowing that you can, and because people before you did it. And if they tell you no, just tell them, watch me. So that's kind of what I hope is perceived from it.
And I think so. We've gotten so much feedback, you and I together at the racetrack. I run all of our socials, and it's 90-10, and it's that way where I feel like I don't know if it's because you're a female. I don't know if it's because you came from junior drag racing. I don't know if it's because of Right on Track and people had this perception of, dad's wallet or whatever the misconceptions may be. But for some reason, your whole career, I feel like you've kind of got beat up online more than most people. And I would venture to say that this movie 90-10, I mean, we get people saying, thank you for being real. That one woman at the Stampede of Speed the other night, like, to me, that was what Flo wanted out of this. And Flo is real. They tell me all the time, like, this is the internet, not TV. You can be real. And they came in wanting to tell our story, not make a movie, not construct something that the public may want to hear. They wanted to tell our story, whether society was ready to take it or not. And I think that it worked out really well. But let's dive into the filming of this, because now that we're old enough to take it in, like, we went to a movie set and things were Disney fairyed us for that first time. And it was really cool, but it was just very, very different. And I didn't really absorb it the way that I should, because I was 15 years old and you were 18 years old doing that. But this Flo deal, so we're adults. Flo comes to me, says they want to do it. Your initial reaction when I came to you and said, like, they want in, they want all the way in. You can be honest here. This is the internet, not TV. Were you all in, or did you kind of have some of those issues with wondering what people would think then?
No, I was like, no, absolutely not this, no, but hell no. But, being able to work with you and Millery and the team at Flo, like, they made it easy and they made it fun, but it doesn't take away the scare factor of you are mic'd up all of the time. They're going to catch terrifying. You. It's awful. Like, and then you go to the bathroom and you forget you're mic'd up, or you take a personal phone call and you forget you're mic'd up. So Flo knows a lot of things about me now, but it for me, somebody, I say, I don't really care what they think, but really I do. I care way more than you what people think. And I didn't want to lose the perception of the polish. So that part was interesting for me. And I really don't think, after seeing the finished product, I don't really think there's much to be ashamed of, because it is real. It's what we deal with week in and week out. It just so happened like that we had the best season of my entire career last year. We locked the championship up in Vegas, and we go to Pomona and struggled like you wouldn't freaking believe. And not just struggled like my crew chiefs and my tuners struggled, but I struggled as a driver. And, those are some of the clips that you see where I'm very mad, but I'm mad. I'm not mad at anybody but myself, because I strive for perfection. And all year long, I did a fantastic job. And then I get to Pomona and I'm like, what happened? Like, I'm like a second year driver again. But it just shows you that, that no matter, why are you laughing? It just shows you that no matter what you go through, like, you just, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here also, but like, people, like I was just reading this past week of all this winning as women in motorsport stuff, like, the people that say like that my attitude sucks and that I cry when I lose, like, you're by my side every single weekend, except for like, I think you've missed one race in the last like 10 years. But I don't cry. I might go back to the trailer and talk with my guys behind closed doors. But what this all stemmed from is 2013 at the U.S. Nationals in the final round. And I sent you a picture of Greg Anderson doing the exact same thing. And I said, I wish I could put this picture next to the one that everybody hates on me for, but I'm sitting next to my GK car. And I have my head in my hands like this in disbelief of what just was done to me. And if people knew the backstory, they might not be so quick to judge, but it's just not a crier. I don't have a bad attitude. I'm actually very humble. I give all of the credit away. I mouthed off to Amanda a couple of weeks ago because I was sick of her negativity and the things that she was saying. And that put me in a bad light, just like when Steve-O smacked Cameron, like, and he's still paying for it like 5 years later, and he publicly apologized at the banquet. Like, what more do people want from us? Like, if they got to know Steve Torrance, like, he's so freaking funny and he's one of the best people on the planet of Earth. And it just like, people are just very hard on us. And reading those comments, it just makes me want to smack them. So it is what it is, but that was what I was most worried about. But I'm glad that the finished product turned out the way that it did. And if people can take anything away from that, is just remember that we're real people just trying to be really great at something that we love. And while we're doing it, we're sacrificing a ton and we're spending a lot of money. So there's a lot of passion and a lot of pride that goes into it. So when you see us get angry or ticked off, like, that's why. Maybe be a little less judgmental.
As you were talking to cue my next question, I wrote down real human, and then you went ahead and said it. But I think that that's the purpose of stuff like this that Flo's doing, and Flo's ahead of the game on the content side. We're new in drag racing on the streaming front, but I think that people are starting to realize the investment that they're making in our sport. And I told you this when I was convincing you to do this, because those of you who worked on this film, Flo, I never told you how difficult that was, but we had to convince her because it's hard to put yourself out there and be that real human and give the why. Like you say, you care a lot about what people think, which you do much more than people could ever even dream of. But at the end of the day, you're still going to do what you're going to do because of your passions. But Flo took this different aspect. It's not telling the story. They could have told it without us, you know, all the accolades. They could have had Dad tell it. They could have had Richard tell it. They didn't need to come to Pomona and mic us up. They didn't need to come to the shop and get us bantering with the guys. But drag racing's always been a little bit behind in that sense to me, where the cars are the stars and we don't know the people. Like people go to NASCAR races still wearing number 3 because they loved Dale Earnhardt. They don't go there because they know what's under the hood right there. They don't know what's under the hood, all of that. But I think that was Flo's purpose. And when you were sucking at Pomona when they came there, I remember you telling me, like, gosh dang it, like, why this weekend? Why are they, you know, we thought it would be a nice, easy weekend for them to do it. No pressure. The championship had already been won. But I think that as we look back on it, and I tell you this every time with Dallas this weekend and everything, your career is one of a storybook, and the drag racing gods love telling a story and they love breaking your heart and they love giving you chill bumps. Like when Clay Millican won his first race on Father's Day after his son passed, like the amount of emotional things that happen at a time when they needed to happen in drag racing is unbelievable. You can't write it. And I think that if you would have done well that weekend, I mean, we did do well. You runnered up, you won the championship, but if we wouldn't have had those struggles, just imagine how different that story and that documentary would have been. We wouldn't have seen that side of you. We wouldn't have seen those struggles. I don't think we would have been able to teach the Flo audience the ups and downs and how fickle of a biatch this sport is. But I know you didn't like it, but looking back, I mean, can you agree that it would have been a different story?
Is this where you're like, you want me to say, okay, Courtney, you were right?
Yeah.
Because you were right. Like you have been about a lot of things, but yeah, it's just part of I like to keep my personal life personal. And so to let people in, even though it was only at the racetrack, was something that was big for me. I'm glad it played out the way that it did. And, you know, aside from the cuss words, I'm very proud of it and pleased with it. And it's a lot of fun. Like it'll be something to go back and watch if we ever have kids and be like, look, see, I wasn't always a dork. I used to be cool, even though I'm still a dork. But yeah. Thank you. I know we all know you're the cool sister, But
you.
it was fun, and I'm glad that you pushed me to do it. I'm glad that Flo pushed for it, because it sheds our sport in a new light. And you touched on it a second ago about personalities and the people being the stars. And I think that's something that is going to be so freaking awesome about this PRO Superstar Shootout. You're going to get to learn so much about the people that make our sport what it is. And that's something that NHRA and the rest of the world fails to remember, that it's the people that make it so amazing. And you can go down the list of top fuel and funny car drivers and pro stock drivers that, like we were talking to Steve Torrance and Sean Langdon in the staging lane Sunday morning before first round. And you're like, when we rode off, we're like, how lucky are we? We've met some pretty amazing people along this journey. We've met some of the biggest assholes and some of our worst enemies ever in the history of the world out there. But there are a lot of really great people, from the two I just mentioned to Pam and AJ to, I mean, you just go down the list, and some of our best friends in the entire world. So we're pretty lucky.
So you transitioned for me. I love it. This is great.
You're welcome.
The pro race. Well, I want to talk about the pro race because you've kind of been behind the scenes of the birth of this, if you will, the conception and the birth of it, to where a lot of the drivers are just getting to be a part of it. But I feel like you've seen a lot of the hard work that's gone into this, and we've talked about it. I've had people on my podcast for it. We've done content pieces, but I want to dive into how this came about and why it's significant. It's going to be a cool drag race. There's going to be things different about it. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have all the hoopla there. But help me tell the story of why it's so important for the Chad Heads, the Tony Stewarts, the Richard Freemans, the Michelle Domagalas, the Bob Taskas, the Alan Johnsons being on the same freaking page and having the same goal, and how powerful that really is.
I think it's the most powerful thing in the world, because everybody has their own agenda at heart, right? And to get a group of people with the names that you just said, the biggest names in NHRA drag racing history, to come together and work on something that they believe wholeheartedly in with that group of people, I think is an absolute recipe for ultimate success. Yes, we're going to have the hoopla, like you mentioned, the Ferris wheel, bounce houses, live music, double-decker stands, bars. I mean, like, we're going to feed these people lunch and dinner. We're going to have outlaw beer and all the other things that are people.
We're going to sell outlaw beer.
We are. And it's going to be epic. I hate that word. It's stupid, but it's going to be an absolute epic event. And Wes Buck's involved, and everything that he touches promotionally wise is gold. And it's all because they believe in what they're doing. It's not because they're the best promoter in the world, which he may be, but it's because they love what they do. And I'm talking about Wes, I'm talking about Richard, Chad Head, Alan Johnson, Top Fuel Alan Johnson, Tony Stewart, Michelle Domagala, like all the people that you mentioned. If the people behind the scenes if the people could see what's going on behind the scenes, like they have meetings about next week's meeting, about tomorrow's meeting, about yesterday's meeting. I mean, like, they're working so incredibly hard on this event, and it's going to be awesome. And to jump over to the cool factor, the work that you and Flo are doing behind the scenes to capture the personalities, the superstars of the sport. You and I got to go cowboy hat shopping in the stockyards. You got to share a sucker and walk with Greg Anderson, my biggest rival, and you guys had the greatest time of all. Like, you played video games with Derek Kramer. You cooked with Rock, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I get him and Justin Ashley confused. Rock's the cook. But yeah, like, it's just going to show a different side of all of these stars, and I think it'll make them more likable to the fan, and that they can finally relate that we're just normal people that deserve, a little bit of kindness given back to them, and we put our pants on the same way. Like, it's going to be freaking cool. And I can't wait for everybody to see how it turns out.
When I first got offered this job at Flo, I've worked with and for you my entire career. Like, those of you who don't know, I worked for Sparco and went and slang fire suits in the Midway, drove this Sprinter van by myself across the country with Kristen and sold fire suits. I worked for Impact. I've done everything under the sun. I've cooked for Monster Energy, just to be at the racetrack. And I've kind of struggled. This wasn't on my agenda to talk about today. I've kind of struggled to find my place in this sport, not necessarily for me or for you, because behind closed doors, you and I know we're a team. I don't care what people think, that I just get to fly in on the jet. I guess they think I make $1 gazillion and I can go to the racetrack just to be your cheerleader. But we've done a really good job of working together. And for me to, I've said this phrase a million times, give the keys to my castle, you're my castle, up to take this job at Flo it was really hard. And you pushed for me to do it because A, to have my own thing, but B, I think that you also saw that there's something in the space that a company like Flo can do, this piece of the puzzle of drag racing that's been missing. And if I would have said a year and a half ago when I first got this full-time gig, like within 16 months, we're there. But like, I feel like this pro race is there, and I'm not taking anything away from PDRA or Ducks races or Midwest or all of that, but you'd be blind to not say that the NHRA is the pinnacle of drag racing. That's where, I mean, look at what's all that stuff behind you. And to get what we're getting in 16 months and get those people on board, like, it's unreal. And I think that the reason I went off on this tangent, like I'm the one being interviewed, is I want people to know how hard we're working. Like, we get a lot of crap of, you only invited the top tier, and, you know, where's the Scott Palmers or the Terry Haddocks or the Alex Laughlins and that sort. But the people that put this together are going to showcase drag racing at its top level to a whole new audience of Flo racing. That's Flo cheer, Flo wrestling, track and field, all of these, marching band, everything that Flo has to offer on top of their, as we call it in the drag racing world, their roundy round side. I don't think that they call that within it, but the dirt side, the late model side, the sprint car side, the pavement side. What are you most excited, long question, about showing that end of the Floverse, as we call it, about drag racing? Is it the power? Is it the people? Is it the passion? What is it?
I think all the P's. I think everything, and we smoke our own, right? Like, I love what we do, and I think it is the coolest thing ever, because every ticket's a pit pass. You can come watch us work on our cars. You take pictures with the drivers. Like, you and I have been to a handful of NASCAR races. Like, you have to have like presidential security clearance to get in the pit area. And then even at that point, you still don't get to meet any of the drivers. They're kept way away from you. So our sport is so unique in that aspect. But to showcase it to like the people that subscribe to Flo, not for racing, is going to be really cool. And I think that we get to present our sport to a whole new audience that, in my opinion, will most likely absolutely fall in love with it. And if they don't, there might be something wrong with them. I don't know, but
maybe there's something wrong with all of us.
Maybe. Yeah, I think that's probably the better answer. But this event is gonna be awesome. And I think that it's gonna open up a whole new can of worms for live stream stuff on the internet, instead of having a show on a dedicated time on a big network like Fox, like we're on now. But who knows? I mean, that's not my profession or my forte. So I might be wrong, but I think it's just going to be awesome. And I can't wait to showcase something that I love to a new audience and maybe get them to fall in love with it like we have.
And I can't wait for it either, but I'll be honest, as we always are here on Right Off Track, I can't wait for it to be over so we can stop having meetings about meetings. My gosh. You get so mad. You're like, why are you going to another meeting?
I'm like, we're just about to eat dinner. Sorry, I got to go to a meeting. I'm like, really? Another meeting? And Michelle will come over and get you and Richard. And I'm like, well, who am I going to hang out with now? Because my friends are gone. So
you just keep letting the clutch out and keep being the winningest woman in motorsports history. And Richard and I will handle the meetings. But
okay.
Before we move on from this pro race, I want to give the sponsors a little love, because you have a relationship with these sponsors as well, being on the inside of the birth of this event yet again. Guys like Skag and JHG, and this isn't us exactly. This isn't us, fluffing them. We want to give them love because they support our sport, but these guys personally, Jason, Randy, Maria, Nikki, all of them. The passion that they have for this. This isn't somebody just coming in and stroking a check because they think they're going to get some kind of ROI on this deal. Like, Randy brings so many people out there and uses this as an activation. And JHG, it's purely passion and family driven. So is it cool for you to have, two-prong question, to have your sponsors be such a big thing of this event? And why do you think that their passion is so strong in drag racing?
Well, I'm very proud to have JHD and Skag, who are two of our main sponsors here at Elite Motorsports. I say sponsors, but partners. And they do it because they love it. You're right. They don't do it for the ROI, which I'm sure there is some substantial ROI, but also they do it because they believe in our sport, and it creates a unique environment for them to do business. Randy does this not because I'm sure he is selling more power equipment, but like, he does it for the unique environment to bring every dealer out that sells Skag equipment to the races to provide a fun weekend for them. They have that pit box on the starting line where they're able to get up close. NHRA allows him to bring his dealers up to the starting line,
which is wild,
which is pretty awesome. When Tim Wilkerson runs, when Tony Schumacher runs, and when I run, and the Richards team, also the Versatran car. Like, he's able to bring his dealers up to the starting line. Like, what else is cooler than that, to be able to conduct business at a racetrack on the starting line with thousands of horsepower? So it's again, a unique environment to do business in, and that's what Randy cares about, is being able to take care of his dealers at the racetrack. And he doesn't, I mean, he cares, right? But he doesn't care if we win or lose. It's about the business side of the relationship. And Jason Johnson is that way as well. Him and his wife, Nikki, and Chris and Jackie, who are heading up the JHD dealership that they're building outside of Nashville. They're going to have a whole bunch of hot rods there. This guy is an absolute car lover, and he does it for the pure love of the sport. So those are two people that, again, like, total recipe for success, because they love what they do and they believe in it wholeheartedly. And they were the ones that called and said, hey, we want to be on board for this. They didn't have to be sold on it. So Bradenton Motorsports Park is going to be painted cat's eye gold. We're going to have the pit box up there with all of Randy's dealers. I mean, it's going to be freaking awesome, and I can't wait. So yes, very proud to have our partners as a big part of this PRO Superstar Shootout with Flo involved. It's just, I don't know. I could talk about it for hours because I'm excited.
I think you might work for me that day.
Probably will. I'll have to be like, Courtney, can I go get my race car, please?
No, we're doing content. We're learning about drivers. You race later. No. But seriously, yeah. So we've covered quite a bit today. Your history, the Stampede of Speed, which was incredible. Talked about the movie, which, guys, if y'all haven't checked it out, and yes, this is self-promoting, but also I'm proud of it on a personal level. I'm proud of it professionally. I told you after we watched it, I said the coolest part was seeing my name underneath the co-producers thing. Like, didn't have that on my bingo card for 2023, which was really, really cool. I'm very proud of how they told our story. I'm proud of you, Erica, for letting me showcase the Erica that I know to the rest of the world, and trusting me and trusting Paul and Millery and Cliff and Ray and Matthew and Tim and David and everybody involved in it. So please go check it out. It is on FloRacing.com. You just got to type in Speed Queens or check out our social to see any links of that and let us know what you think. But now we're going to kind of get real. As we close this out, I know everything about you. I know you more than you know yourself. I know all the things, and I want all the people to know all the things. And so I want to let them in. Take your race car driver hat off and just be a person here with me for a minute. And I want you to look back, and you've done a lot. There's a lot of shit behind you on those walls. There's a lot of trophies on your shelves. Everyone means something important for its own reason. Every race day tells its own story that only we know. The struggles, all the things, but give me just a couple that for some reason float above in your memory of importance and significance in your career.
Like races,
experiences. It doesn't even have to be winning, just kind of things that you'll take back. And when you and I, because we'll probably be sitting on the same porch in the same rocking chairs together when we're 100, that you'll reminisce with.
Man, I could probably talk a long time about this, but I'll say some wins first, and then I'll tell you some lessons that really helped me to get to where I am as a person and a driver. But like, just quickly on the win side, obviously the 2014 World Championship, coming down to the final round against Jason Line, winner take all. Had he beat me there, we would have lost the World Championship by 1 point. We won by 19 points because Richard wanted to go to the Cayman Islands and skip 2 races that year. I told that story at the Champions Dinner the other night.
I could have pulled my friggin' hair out that day. Screw you, man. That was awful.
Wait, the Champions Dinner?
No, the day you won the championship in the final round. That was insane.
Yeah, you and Dad were very stressed out, and I could have probably puked. But That event, winning that race and that world championship, my first Indy stands out in 2015. Obviously, going back to 2012, my first win in Chicago, which, because God has a sense of humor, came against Greg Anderson, who ironically enough was the guy that didn't want to lose to me. Let's see, 2016 on the other side of things was one of those years that would have torn most teams apart, but it made us stronger. I went from number 1 in the world to number 9. Didn't win very many rounds, did not win a race that entire year because we drove for another manufacturer and our crap was slow. And then let's see, the COVID year, right? We won the U.S. Nationals again that year. We won that championship. Battled back with Greg in 2021. He ended up being the champ. We had a dominant car that year, and it came down to the semifinals at Pomona again, and then winning the championship in 22. Like, there are so many, and I have some, like, the trophies behind me that mean an awful lot to me. My Indy trophies are back there. My Houston trophies are back there. My Dallas trophies are back there. I got my one and only Reading trophy. That place eluded me. I have my little wine goblet here from Sonoma. That was the first time I won Sonoma.
The ice cream scoop.
Yeah. Oh, that's right here.
Yes.
It's my weapon too, just in case. But yeah, like Norwalk. I mean, there are just so many that mean an awful lot to us. We won the 150th national event for women. That was in Vegas last year. I was like 91 through 99, and then 101 through like 105. I missed 100. Courtney Force got it, which was really awesome for her. But like, been a part of a lot of really cool historical moments. But like, the things leading up to those peaks were a lot of valleys, and I talk about that a lot. But like, learning how to drive, crashing a car when I was learning, to let's see, in Bristol 2011, I was back with Cagnazzi driving the Zaza Energy car, and I made it to the final round with Mike Edwards. And I remember my crew chief coming on the radio saying, "It's really hard to get here. Let's make it count." And I went up there, and I was like, I was good. I was 15, 20, 25, somewhere in there. And Mike Edwards was like really late. And then I had a transmission failure. And I just remember, like, that was probably the hardest loss because we hadn't won yet. And I knew how important it was. And my crew chief even said it beforehand. But like, I got back to the trailer and I was just sick to my stomach. And I laid there on the floor and had just like, I was in disbelief. But those moments are the ones that build you into being the person that you are, because you have to learn to win and lose with grace. And, we're not all perfect at that a lot of the times, but it's like one of those real gut check moments. And then another loss that was super tough, the one we talked about, I was sitting next to my car like this in Indy, the final round there in 2013. And then one against an ex-teammate where I was 007 and he was like 100 and something on the tree. And again, had an issue with my transmission. And I was physically sick when we lost that race, not crying, not having a bad attitude like these assholes say on the internet. But I got out of my car and congratulated my teammate, and I went over to the fence and I puked. Like, it made me physically ill that I was 007 and we had the car to beat. And for some reason, it just wasn't meant to be my day. So there are those moments. So both sides of the spectrum. Well, I answered your question, but like the really great historical moments that I've been blessed to be a part of, but I've also been blessed to experience like some of the most gut-wrenching losses, and trusting people who did not have my best interest at heart and getting my heart broken by them taught me valuable lessons. Learning to control the sponsorship dollars and my business. And I'm fortunate to have Richard to do that with, and I trust him wholeheartedly with that stuff. But that came from being taken advantage of before. So it's just like huge lesson, and it hasn't been easy. And you've been a part of it, and I've called you, in tears, just like, because how can people be so awful and mean and horrible when you did everything you could for them and provided for them and loved them, and they can do what they do to you? But it's a lesson, right? And you can only get tougher and smarter and better and put walls up so that doesn't happen again. And that goes back to our speed queens, right? Like full circle. Like there are big concrete walls in place because of the things that have happened before, and we're tougher. We have thick skin. We're a little bit meaner, and than probably most women in the real world, but we are because we have to be. So all of those things taught me and brought me right here.
I'd be hard pressed not to mention Dad in this sense of him teaching us how to do this, and I kind of feel not bad, but I just feel a way that, you know, we've come this far. He set this passion in both of our hearts and our minds. Really, I followed it because you did it. But Dad implanted this crazy dream in us. And for him to watch it, he said something on that documentary that really got me. And he said, I've never been a 5-time world champ, and I've never been an on-air talent or a content creator, journalist. And he's proud to have set us up to pass him. Like, and I don't really have a real question with this, except I want you to give Dad a little credit of our mental strength, our mental stability, our positive way of thinking. And honestly, people may take this the wrong way, but him helping us build those walls around us where it's just me and you against the world.
Dad gets all the credit, because without him, we wouldn't have this dream. Without him, we wouldn't be as mentally tough as we are. Like, what a lot of people don't know about our dad, before he made money in the business world, he was a positive mental attitude coach, and he traveled the country giving seminars on the importance of self-talk and positive mental attitude. So that was something that was instilled in us from a young age, and we weren't allowed to say, I can't. We weren't allowed to say, you know, don't spill your drink. It was keep your drink in the cup. It was always the positive version of whatever he was saying. He never yelled at us, like never. And that's something that probably I still struggle with today, is like when people raise their voices, I kind of want to cry, because like I never got yelled at, and I don't particularly care for it, because you can tell me what you need to tell me in a regular voice, communicating like a normal human. So that part kind of sucks, but the best dad in the whole freaking wide world. And I wish that he was still, you know, able to come to the races and be a part of it. Like, I hate that he was only 3.5 hours away from Ennis on Sunday, and he wasn't able to be there. But I still, whether I'm testing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or I'm racing for all the money in the final round at a national event, I call him before every single time I get in that race car. So he's a huge part of it. Wouldn't be here without him. Wouldn't want to be here without him or you. So thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. All right, last thing before we wrap this up. I want you to tell the Floverse maybe a common misconception about you, or something that you wish, doesn't have to be racing related, doesn't have to be anything, but just something to let us in of something you wish the world knew about Erica Enders.
I wish they knew a couple things. The one that bothers me the most would probably be that I'm here, or we're here, because of the silver spoon. Not the case. We had to work really hard and, surround ourselves with good people. And we are here because we continue to work hard at it. It wasn't because Dad wrote a check. It was the case in the beginning because he got us started racing. But now, we secure sponsorship and spend for ourselves out here. The other thing is that, like you always say, when I say stupid crap or when I trip over my own feet, like, I wish the world knew the real Erica. Like, I wish, like, I'm a goofball. I like to have fun. I love to laugh. I'm funny sometimes. And, I wish they could see that side of it. I keep to myself, like, a lot. Like, what's that movie, Big Daddy, like, where the kid puts on his sunglasses and he's invisible. Like, that's me at the racetrack. So if I don't wave back to you, it doesn't mean that I'm a bitch. It means that I probably didn't see you, or I'm thinking like 9 million miles per hour and I didn't even like know what's in front of me. So I keep to myself. I generally don't leave my pit area unless I have to go to the tower for an interview. I don't frolic around. I don't hang out on golf carts behind the tower at 1 a.m. I do my job. I go to work. I act like I clock in when I get on the PJ on Thursday afternoon. Like, I'm going to work, and not going to visit, not going to suck, going to collect a check and come home. And that's how I treat it. And I wish that people saw that part. It's not a party on the road. I'm not a bitch. I'm just me, and I love what I do.
She is goofy, y'all. This girl trips over her own feet. She loves to sleep. She'll take a nap anywhere. Like the fact that we call her Double E might be because it's in the middle of sleep. Loves to shop, all the things. But yes, I just wanted to give the Flo, before they get to know you fully at the Pro Superstar Shootout, give them a little bit of that. But gosh, dang, I said 45 minutes and it's been over an hour. But you and I,
really?
yeah, I feel like you and I, and again, maybe I live in my own bubble too, but I'm so comfortable with you. I feel like you're most comfortable with me. It's not a normal interview. And I really, really hope that anybody here watching on FloRacing and Right Off Track got to see a little different side of Erica Enders. It may not be as fun as the shake and bake side, but.
No, there's cocktails involved in that, but no, it's, yeah, I hope so too. I don't know. You always say that. I wish you could say like what you say to me, to people.
I say, I wish the world could know and see the real Erica and the Erica that I see. And even, our friends, Dion, who had this persona of you because he was a kid when you won your first world championship, of what Erica Enders is. And then he gets to know you. And when you say funny stuff, it's just really at the beginning, when you're getting to know you, it's almost hard to comprehend that you're such a funny gal. We'll just call it. You're such a funny gal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you sacrificed a lot to do this, and you just want to be good at what you do and have fun while you're doing it. And, I don't know. You just want people to love you for who you are, and I'm just me. So whatever.
So whatever. End quote.
So whatever.
5-time world champion. So
yeah,
you have a week off. I get to go to the PDRA World Finals and crown champions there, which I'm really, really excited about. What does Erica Enders do on her week off?
So my plan was, Frank, I get all my Franks confused. Iaconio's here working on motors. Gugliotta,
hey, Erica, this shirt belongs to Frank.
It's Frank.
Billy Madison, folks. Anyway, keep going.
I love that movie. Frank Gugliotta, the flying meatball, called, and Rich Purdy, who does the engine work with him, if I want to come drive my mountain motor car wherever you're going. Where's PDRA this weekend?
VMP.
Close your mouth.
I got excited.
I know. Well, I want to go, but I can't take any of my guys with me because Jeg's coming in to test my new race car because he's racing at Vegas. So I made a really tough decision and said no to a race for the first time in my life. But fun fact, Vincent Nobile is going to drive my car for me. So hopefully they have a great time. And I think JR Carr is going to drive Richard's car. So it'll be a great weekend for the mountain motor program. But that was my plan, was to go drive that car. But adulting, do not recommend. But adulting, I had to make a business decision and something that was good for me and my mindset going into Vegas and chasing the world championship for 500-inch pro stock. I decided to opt out on that. I will be going dress shopping with my favorite human tomorrow for the banquet in Fort Worth. We'll venture down to H-Town and I'm back up for testing in Tulsa on Monday. So that's my plan. Got to find a banquet dress. That's like the worst part about being a girl. Like, why can't they have Carducci but with dresses in the staging lanes? And then you pick out your dress and you go to the banquet and then you give it back. Like, no, you have to go buy a dress, buy shoes, buy jewelry, get your hair done, get your makeup done, all this crap. And the guys just get to like roll in with their sneakers on and and just like show up at the banquet.
And there is the real Erica, and that is why it pays to have your sister on your podcast, because she may forget you're recording. But you're right, there's a lot that goes into it. I'm excited. As a fan of drag racing, I'm excited to see how this pans out, but I'm so excited to see. I just saw you create an ulcer in your stomach. Stop.
I did. I can't even.
It's going to work out. It's going to work out the way it's going to work out. And we're going to come back next year regardless, but you are on the brink of your 6th championship, leading the points by 85 points. Vegas, winningest driver in Vegas. You've won there like 10,000 times. It looks good in that sense, but Pomona 1.5 points, and you've got everybody nipping at your heels. And guys, if you are not paying attention to Pro Stock, wake up and pay attention to Pro Stock, because in my opinion, it's what's going on right now. So I appreciate you taking the time, even though I would not have let you say no. let you pick the time, but the answer, no, wasn't an issue, to promote Speed Queens, to talk about Stampede of Speed, the Pro Superstar Shootout, and just give the Flo racing industry, my favorite human in the world, the reason I love drag racing so much, the reason I have this job, the reason I do all the things that I do, Erica Enders, 5-time world champion. So thank you so much for coming on Right Off Track.
Thanks for having me. It was fun to talk to you. I will see you tomorrow and we'll spend some money.
Oh yeah, we are going to spend some money. And I'm going to end this like we ended our Speed Queens movie, and you looked at me like I was an idiot, so I assume you're going to do it. So we are the Ender sisters, and this is Right Off Track.
No.